Hey there, everybody. Welcome back with the Plat. Purplatypus is the name, and welcome to a Hades video. Today, I'm going to be talking about my 5 favorite things that I think are improved from Hades 1. Really quick before we jump into it, boom! Thank you to the members and to the supporters. I greatly appreciate you, friends, allies, comrades, for supporting the Plat, brothers and sisters, and all that. Anyway, let's jump into it. Number one, something I really like is I like this generic bones currency. So there is this, like, when you go on runs, you can get bones, and they'll even get like a weapon will get like highlighted, like, hey, use this weapon tonight. You'll generate 2 bones per room. And then you can come back here and you can purchase goods, exotic goods like progression materials, or even like mostly progression materials, even things like nectar, but I already bought that. But then this will allow you to basically just collect a bunch of a resource and then sell certain things. You can grow things to sell, and then you're able to buy specific things that you need in order to progress. Not everything, but a lot of the mass materials you need, you will be able to buy specifically from the shop. And I really like that. I remember in Hades, I felt like I was always looking for specific gems and then trying to move the gems for like I could trade like my little gems for like this material, or the big gems for this other material. And maybe I'm slightly misremembering that, but I mean, it's been a while since I played Hades, but I remember that I thought this was such a clear, awesome system that I really loved. So something that I actually love so far in this game is the ability to concoct potions or whatever. This is like a very interesting system. Like initially it just seems like, okay, this is meta progression. And in a sense it is mostly meta progression, but it also, on top of unlocking new systems, right? Like the abilities to have boons have elements, and then elemental boons will have different things that they synergize with each other. This also has story progression tied to it, right? Like, so Doom Beckoning, right, is I gotta call someone from the Fates to come here, and then they go and they come back. And so as you're getting through the game, you're gonna start finding more and more resources. And then as you do these things, you actually just get like a little bit of story progression, a lot of world building, and a ton of like totally brand new systems. Everything is in here. So it's a totally separate form of progression that feels more rewarding in a way, because this is more like where the next thing we're going to talk about, you can like kind of mass get a bunch of early game resources to get more powerful. This requires you to get to these later zones to get to these like unlocking totally new mechanics, right? And it has felt like they've had fun kind of weaving in the story into this as well, like with the Fates asking you to go here and do this thing, and no spoilers or anything if you're playing it, but I have found just this little menu and the things that it adds and the things that I'm looking for, it adds a lot of it's been very enjoyable for me. This new meditation system, like new permanent progression, I am in love with. This feels so much better than the older Hades one. So in Hades 1, you have like this list that you go at the mirror, right? In the mirror, you unlock these things, and then you pick either or, right? You could have this one, or you could have this one. And they're on the same line. You can kind of have, them each activated. This is a way more flexible system. You can see here, you just get these cards, and I don't even know how far. Maybe this will be all the cards in the entire game right now. I don't know how deep the system goes right now. This is what I currently have. But this lets you basically, you start off with 10 what's called grasp, basically 10 capacity. And then as you collect this resource here, this called psych, you are going to be able to increase your grasp to get more and more and more. And then you can activate more cards at the same time. But these cards have very powerful effects that are just kind of all over the place in terms of you could build these very specific builds. The one thing I want them to really add is that these are varied enough so far, and their builds are going to be different, where I hope they have loadouts kind of for this. Like there will be like my cast build. Here will be a, maybe just a physical build, maybe a speedrunner style build, right? Like this is like, I want to get through as fast as possible. But I don't care about being as powerful necessarily, because I'm going for good RNG. Your hex charges up automatically as though you use 2 mana every 1 second. I don't even know what this one does, but like, here's the thing. There's not only are these the really, really cool upgrades, like this obviously just lets you do refreshes. There's also these 0 cost ones, but they have restrictions on them. Basically, it's like you can't just activate them whenever you want, but when you meet their conditions, they'll automatically turn on. So like this one here, right? Start each night with +2 rerolls. The only way to get that is to activate each of these 2 cards. So once these are 2 on, this one will turn on automatically. But wool is currently, I don't know how to get it. But here we go. After 5 locations, gain 3 and 3. This is a lot of free HP and MP. But you can only use this if you're activating cards that cost between 1 through 5. So other cards that cost 0 may not, may turn it off, may not. But also, I'm assuming these 6 cost cards will turn them off, right? So activate all 5 cards in any row to get divinity. Any boons offered have plus 10% chance to be epic, right? So there's just, and then that's just those. Like these are like conditional ones. But on top of that, you know, the ability to get Death Defiance is a little bit boring. But you know, restoring mana constantly, being able to slow down time when you're casting, being able to heal as you go through the run, getting extra attack and special damage when you have less than 100% mana, right? So there's a lot of interesting things here that I've had personally. I've found this to be a huge improvement on the old system, and it can only get better, in my opinion, as they expand and add more of these cards for really cool builds. Another thing that maybe doesn't seem as big of a deal, but I personally really like it as a roguelike enjoyer with like Binding of Isaac and stuff and Shadow Hearts. I love this armor system. Now, there might have been armors in Hades too. I honestly don't remember it, but it's a simple enough mechanic where I would believe that it was maybe few and far between if it was in the game. But even if it was, it feels so much more expanded in this game. So the Silken Sash is one example of it. You gain 20 armor, and then while you have at least 1 armor, it'll basically get stronger after each location. So you get more and more and more armor. So you get to constantly, if you do this early in a run, you get to start building up a big reservoir of HP. But beyond that, the armor is very cool because it adds another lever that they can manipulate stuff to, basically. So some boons will now interact with armor. Boons can give you armor. Boons can deal maybe damage based on how much armor you have, right? There's also a character early on that will give you an outfit. And as long as your armor persists, this outfit has a very powerful secondary effect. Something like, it can even give you like 40% faster charge up time on your Omega attacks or whatever, right? And so while you have a lot of, it's like bonus HP, which is cool, that protects your HP, but it also has a lot of different things that they're manipulating with it. And I really enjoyed it. I just had fun. I like having armor in games. You could do like a low HP. If you're going to go with some sort of like armor thing, suddenly in the meditation, maybe you don't take the things that give you more HP because you're going to be relying on your armor for most of the run. And hoping it'll just keep building up over time. And maybe there's like a Death Defiance recovers, like 1 HP, but you get like 50 armor or something, and maybe your outfits can persist through armor breaking or something. I don't know. There's all kinds of levers that they could pull with this armor system, which I really enjoy. And the final thing we're going to talk about, my favorite thing in this game, for a lot of the same reasons, is the mana. The mana system is so fun. So basically, you've got your attacks like you've always had them, right? You've got attacks that can block, you've got a cast, you've got a normal attack, you've got a special. But now you can charge up these attacks to do a secondary effect. Not only is a secondary effect very different between weapons, it takes mana to do it for these like Omega attacks. So you have very cool, powerful, and interesting attacks that could do different things. This one basically just has an explosion, right? So it's not like insane, but it can be, of course. So I really like that alone, right? I like the mana. It's a finite resource in the sense that it doesn't automatically regenerate unless you have something going on that will give it to you to regenerate. But it regenerates between rooms. But inside of a room, it doesn't passively regenerate without some sort of like baseline. It doesn't. You have to have something add to do it. Besides that, though, so much like the armor system, this is such a fun lever that they can tweak. Now you can make it so all the gods can interact with mana in their own way that's unique to them. From something as simple as a character can get, bonus. There's a character I had where it's like, I have bonus HP based on my mana. All right, that's cool for one character, but this other character can make it so my charge attacks consume more mana, but they deal more damage, or they inflict a status ailment, or they can have it so, like, there's countless reasons. But like, there was another one that was, while I'm standing in my cast, I regenerate mana. While I'm near foes that are weakened, I can generate mana. So there's a lot of mana generation in different interesting ways Different characters will allow you to generate mana in different ways, but they also allow you to spend that mana in different ways. And then the mana can also be used in different builds. You can like have all your mana tied up in like passive effects, so you don't even have to use it. It'll just give you passive effects. Or you could use it where you're going to go basically a caster build. You're always going to be using magic, and maybe you're not going to use the axe for that, but maybe you're going to use something like the torches, right? Because the torches have this really powerful effect where they can just throw mana away faster than like any weapon, you know? Every single one of the attacks costs 5 mana. So there's so many interesting and fun levers they can manipulate with this simple addition. Like, it seems so obvious, but it's like actually, I think it adds so much depth to the game in variety of builds they can do, because it's not just like, it's not like adding a new weapon alone. It's not like, oh, well, now I'm going to go with a mana build. Like, what is a mana build? A mana can enhance every single build in multiple ways, in different ways. Even if you're going for full physical damage, maybe you want your mana to do the super attacks. And if you don't want to do the super attacks, maybe you can use your mana to give you some passive benefits. And if you don't want that, maybe you could just ignore the mana altogether and still use it for, you know, just kind of pretend you don't have mana. That's still an option, kind of playing it old school style. But I'm starting to ramble at this point. But the point is, I think Hades 2 is done so many things that are fundamentally improving on the game. Of course, there's not as much to the game right now, but it's so good right now. It's so good. I think it's just straight up, there's so many improvements to the core systems. I'm excited to see how they continue to improve. Now, really quick, to give one downside at the end of a positive video, currently, the weapons don't really resonate with me. I'm not a super big fan of these daggers, of these torches. The axe I think is cool, but I don't have enough experience with it to really, really enjoy it. It's I end up taking a lot of damage, but I do like the first staff quite a bit. I like this staff, but I don't find them as engaging as the first game's weapons so far. But maybe that's a little bit of a bias from having played those games a lot. That's all for today, guys. Thank you very much. For Platypus is for Platypus. I'll see you on the flip flops. You have a good one. Bye.